Riot police earlier forcefully removed worshippers from a church in Paris who were protesting against the building's demolition. A very strange scene. Thought 12 squad cars were on site there to evict the worshippers inside. That looked reasonably peaceful enough on the face of it anyway. Those officers are in full riot gear. RT's Harry Fear reports from Paris.
Extraordinary happenings today in the 15th quarter of Paris, and we've seen those extraordinary images posted on social media showing that great police force was used to try to remove those sit-in protesters, and indeed the priest himself apparently, who was conducting this early morning mass, and the images show apparently that he was even himself dragged along the floor of the church. But despite that, though, it seems that the local police think their operation went without incident.
About 30 people occupied the building protesting against the demolition. The evacuation was carried out without any incident.
That flies in the face of the images we've just seen. And also we spoke to some of the eyewitnesses who were in the church and witnessed the operation. They spoke of pepper spray and even some kind of gas being used.
They come for the priest, not for us. They gas us, they use gas on us, and all the policemen go around for take the priest, not us.
Those we spoke to were among the dozens of protesters sitting in, trying to block the demolition of the Santa Rita church. It's due to be turned into some kind of social housing or parking lot, it's reported.
There's also anger over the timing, too. The eviction came just a day after the funeral of the priest, of course, who was killed by ISIL sympathisers in that church in Normandy.
I think it's like killing the priest who died last week a second time.
I think it's very bad timing here in France to destroy a church and to leave people from a church.
Well, French right-wing politician Marine Le Pen was quick to respond. She's among the critics to what happened in that church, the removal there. She took to Twitter to suggest that Salafist mosques, not churches, should be destroyed. France, of course, under a state of emergency for months now. It's been extended, fearing more terrorist attacks. Tim Dieppe's with us. He's Director of Islamic Affairs at UK Christian organisation Christian Concern. Hi, Tim. Thanks for making the time to be with us. Some people who have been suggesting that what happened in this church in Paris, this forcible removal of the people inside today by these riot police, was a symbolic attack on Christianity. Is that, as you see it, or was it simply just a private matter? This was a church that was apparently closed, although it didn't look it, and they had to evict these people, albeit heavy-handedly. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think the imagery that you've just shown there is very, very powerful, isn't it? And it does seem like extraordinary use of force and unnecessary use of force to have riot police go in and be used to evict peaceful Christian worshippers inside and outside that church, and especially if they used gas or pepper spray and that sort of thing seems extraordinarily unnecessary. And the imagery is so powerful of a priest being dragged along the floor, as you say, by police in riot gear, as if he's a threat to their safety or a violent person, which of course he isn't, because Christianity is a peaceful religion. And you know, it comes just the day after the funeral of Father Hamel, who's perhaps the first Christian martyr to Islam to be openly killed in his church in modern Europe. And that's an extraordinary event that we're still sort of understanding. And we know that many other Christians are martyred in many other countries around the world, often at the hands of Muslims. And here's the first one to be murdered in a church in modern Europe, it seems, probably not the last. And then the very next day, riot police are used to evict a priest from another church, which is slated for demolition. And the symbolism is so powerful, and it does seem like the state is doing exactly what those Islamists want to achieve, which is the destruction of the church, at least symbolically.
Tensions are high there, of course, right now, given those awful events that we've seen, Nice, etc. You don't know what intel the police thought they may have had and what was going inside that church. The puzzle for me is the church we're hearing was closed, and yet there seemed to be a service going on inside. The priest was dressed as he normally would be. Is that normal to have that kind of thing going on in a church that's supposed to be closed?
Well, I don't know the details of that as to whether, to the extent to which it was closed or not. I know it was slated for demolition. I know that this is not the first church to be demolished or had its use changed in France. This has been going on for some years, and there's been some considerable concern about it over time. In fact, only last year there was a petition in France against churches being turned into mosques, and it was very high profile. Even former Prime Minister Nicolas Sarkozy signed that petition, which shows the extent of concern which there is in France about the rate at which these churches are being destroyed and the fact that some of them are being converted into mosques as well.
Going back to those pictures there, as you say, it was disturbing, especially if you are religious, to see a priest being manhandled in that way, a man who, whether you're religious or not, you'd have thought would deserve some respect. It seems the police, according to witnesses, made a beeline for him, and it looks like, I don't know, I wasn't there, but from what the pictures we can see, forced the guy to the floor.
Yes, I agree, and I think that's extraordinary. And in days gone by, people, religious priests would be treated with immense respect and reverence and appropriate deference in that sort of way. And this seems to be symbolic of an abandonment and even a rebellion against the Christian heritage of the nation of France. And the demolition of a church is like symbolic of them tearing up their Christian roots and moving into a very aggressively secular society, which is actually not the answer to aggressive Islam. Christianity provides a much better foundation for that nation, and I think sadly they're moving much more to secularism in that nation.
Tim, thanks for your thoughts. Got to leave it there. Tim Dieppe, Director of Islamic Affairs at UK Christian organisation Christian Concern. Thank you.